World of Color has been drained, which is the perfect opportunity to explore how it works. Avengers campus is going through some transitions. Plaza Point pops up at the end of Main Street. 2 holidays are starting to collide at the Disneyland Resort. And construction projects are getting a different treatment than we've seen in the past. Friends, what do you say? Let's take a lap around the Disneyland Resort and check out everything new this week. It's time for your weekly Disneyland update.
Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Bricky here. What do you say? Let's take a lap around the park and look at all the active projects, because surprisingly, there are a lot of things going on right now at both Disney's California Adventure and across the Esplanade over in Disneyland. There's so much going on, it's almost feeling like, dare I say, normal? Let's go around the park and track all the projects that we can find for this week.
So there's definitely something that is very jarring and shocking when you walk up to the Paradise Lagoon and realize there's no water in it. Now, we've gotten pretty used to not having the show. It hasn't returned since the parks reopened, but not having the water, that takes a whole other level of getting used to, because it is definitely jarring when you walk up and peer over into the world of sand. But it's a great time to better understand this beloved show. For example, look at this little walkway that exists here underneath the bridge that takes us over to Pixar Pier. If you look over to the left, you can see there's a catwalk that would guide you to this room right here, which, as I understand, is the front of house or the control room. So it's interesting to see how one actually gets over to the area where they control the $75 million nighttime show. So there you can see to the right, the little control room and the walkway to where they're able to get over into the command center. As we come back around, you can see there's stairs that have been put in there so they can get workers in and out of the bay. And one of the things that I'm kind of fascinated with is, now that we can see it fully drained, the overall depth of the lagoon. And what I want to do today is kind of break down a little reverse engineering on why it needs to be as deep as it is. And it has so much to do with how they run a show that exists both above and below water with tons and tons of technology. Over 1,100 different pumps are displayed right there in front of us. You can see they have the little pop-up tent where they're working in that exact zone. It definitely is not the way that we want to see this lagoon, but let's really focus in on using this as a bright time to better understand this show, because Disney's California Adventure always didn't look like it does today. There was a moment when the Mickey face was laying in a parking lot, and it took a lot of time to replace the old sun and to erect Mickey onto what I will forever call the Mickey Fun Wheel. So for sure, the park doesn't always look perfect and pristine, but it's the Sim City aspect of the park that I love so much, that it's always under construction, it's always evolving. So let's jump in and better understand how World of Color works while we have this opportunity to see it fully exposed and, dare I say, nude. So one of the first things I'm understanding is there are catwalks, so the workers can walk around and get to the different units they need to without actually having to walk over the top of all the equipment, a safe zone to walk, where you wouldn't step on or break anything and do more damage than you intended to do when you were out there to fix this ginormous showpiece, which is made up of 3 different types of fountains, which total over 1,100 different units. So you can only imagine with that volume how you'd really have to put in an infrastructure to fix things, like this bridge that they've put up to actually be able to walk over to what I refer to as a stage, but what Disney calls a table. This is considered a table that the showpiece sits on. And as you look around the lagoon, you can see the lagoon slopes down to let the table fully sit submerged in water around the center of the lagoon. Storage to show. These scissors, as you can see, sit below the stage, bringing it up and down, equipped with hydraulic locks that will lock the stage in place for showtime. So I think for many of us, we're always curious, how deep is this Disney body of water that we're standing over, regardless of where we're at in the park? And when you look at it from this angle, next to Mickey's Fun Wheel, you can see this incline that they have built all the way around the lagoon. I believe this serves two purposes. One, it makes the water deep enough so you can't look in and see the bottom, which creates the illusion that you are around a natural body of water. You can see the rock line there where the water normally crests around the edge of the rocks there below the Zephyrs, or over here at the bottom of the swings. By the way, that balcony, one of the best quiet spots in all of DCA. I had a really good cry there the first time I came back for Touch of Disney. But what we're doing with this lowered elevation out to the table, we're creating a waterway where the Disney Imagineering team can go around on a boat and literally drive over to the edge of the table to where they know there's a unit that they need to work on or do some sort of modifications for. This gives the lagoon enough depth so the stage or table can fully go below water when we don't want to see that there's a magic trick that will slowly be coming. It seems as if a lot of the power that goes out to do a show of this magnitude is coming over from this backside of the lagoon, over between Lamplight Lounge and where we would get on to the Incredicoaster. That seems to be the major power source, which makes sense because that would be the corner that's closest to the end of the park. This pump that we're looking at right now is able to pump 2,200 gallons per minute. It has a generator that sits behind it, and any of the orange hoses that you see out in the lagoon, so rude when that goes by, that is what was actually retracting the water, taking the water out of the lagoon. Anything that you see is this huge, probably 2-foot looking black pipe. That is what the water rushes into the lagoon when they fill it back up. Now, something that is fascinating, if you look around, so rude, when you look around the edge of Lamplight Lounge, you can see that where a guest maybe would fall off of the rail, the bedding is actually flat in those areas, meaning that if somebody were to fall off, they would fall off probably in like 4 foot of water, which would be deep enough so you wouldn't hurt yourself, but not so deep that you would probably easily drown. This area right here, as I can tell, is where they're able to have a ramp to maybe launch in the boats, but also bring in whatever equipment. But yeah, you can see that everywhere next to where a guest would be, it's flat before it goes deep. Looking back around, you can see the main ramp where they're bringing all of their equipment down. This would probably be where they launch the pontoon boats that they keep tied up over next to the engineering stand. You can see right there on the back wall, there is 6 different major circuit breakers there. I can only imagine how much power is running through that area to make all of this buzz nightly. Looking out into the lagoon, you can see also from this back corner where the main source of power is coming from, that there is a lot of cable running out to get this show going. With over 1,100 fountains, 21 projectors, and all of the little lights that are put around the fountains that control the lighting during the show, there is a ton of technology out there in the lagoon, which means there also has to be a ton of data going back and forth to make sure that the show operates in sync with the music and all the different show elements. When we come around to the Pacific Wharf, you can see there is a concrete wall in there making these 2 separate bodies of water. Next week when we do this, we will look at the 3 different types of fountains and how the show actually work. I just thought it would be nice to set the stage, if you will, explaining how the overall lagoon is designed to make this show store and show.
Now, friends, you have to know that the thing that I'm probably the most excited about that's happening right now at the Disneyland Resort is this right here. A brand new Christmas shop that will hopefully be around all year long. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be around all year long, but this makes me wonder what's going to happen to the current Castle Christmas shop. I think there's room for 2. But we'll see what happens. But this project right here has got me so excited that on the very edge of Main Street, to be able to catch a little bit of holiday vibes all year long, fantastic. And I'm always surprised how many people don't know that there's already a Christmas shop inside the courtyard of Sleeping Beauty's castle. More Christmas? Yes, there's always room for more.
Whereas the Castle Holiday Shop is only Christmas, I think that this one is going to be more celebrating holidays all throughout the year, but obviously the headliner of our holiday season is the Christmas, Hanukkah season where so many people come out to the Disneyland Resort, and it makes sense that you would give this spot on the corner, because what do you need a photo supply for now that nearly everyone has an amazing photo in the front pocket of their jeans or in the side pocket of their bag? But putting this on the corner really is going to anchor out the end of Main Street with what I think is going to be such a magical place to go all year long when I just need a little hit of Christmas. And putting it there on the end, I love the name Plaza Point, because the street really does open up at this ending with the way that the forced perspective moves your eye down, with the way that it starts to split off for the two restaurants. It's fantastic that this is here. And look at this beautiful gold leaf that's already been put inside of the windows. The sign is totally on point with the little flashing lights through there, and then the little red lights inside of that old school font with a little bit of Victorian style artwork up there. The two kids with the red wagon with the gifts in the back of it. This is screaming my name. I'm loving the Plaza Point holiday shop, and from what I hear, it is already opening, and I will be visiting it later on today. I am so excited to have more holiday in the park, more holiday on Main Street all year long. Speaking of the holidays, friends, we are getting dangerously close to that magical time of year at the most magical place on earth, as we can see the holiday lights are already getting put on the facade of It's a Small World, where soon nearly 50,000 lights will wrap the entire front canopy of It's a Small World. And they do such a great designer's technique where each strand has one flashing bulb that makes the whole thing twinkle when you see it for the very first time. This is my favorite Southern California holiday tradition. I cannot wait to see it illuminated. Ho, we are so close. The holidays kick off 11/11 for the first Merriest Nights at Disneyland, open for everybody else on 11/12. Come on, we need a little Christmas. Oh, we need a little Christmas right now. But let's not give up on Halloween, because over right now inside of the Disneyland Opera House, you can see a display that they have set up with all kinds of props from the Muppets Haunted Mansion, now streaming on Disney Plus, and I highly recommend it. As a big Disneyland fan, there was enough payoff in there for me. Really, really enjoyed it and was surprised by it. And then over inside of DCA, the Disney Junior stage has come back. This is our first entertainment offering, an unusual place to start offering entertainment in a small indoor venue with the largest population of citizens of Disneyland that are unvaccinated, our youth, our youngins. Nonetheless, though, entertainment is back in some form at the Disneyland Resort. And so are construction walls. I have a theory about this project that is spanning between Fantasyland and into Toontown. My theory is this. Hear me out. What do you think about this idea? The reason why they're putting in these red pavers, which I've been explaining aren't really pavers, it's actually a pattern that's stamped into the new concrete that they have laid down. Even though it looks like hell right now, do you think they're putting in these red bricks so that we could walk down the red carpet all the way up to the El Cartoon Theater, where we'll get to see Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway? Just a thought. While back here pondering my future of walking down the red carpet to an attraction that I finally got to experience in Walt Disney World at Hollywood Studios, I cannot wait for that attraction to land here in Toontown. Toontown really needs it. I think the backside of this park really needs a good anchor to draw people back in and disperse the crowd flow. But while I was back here, I found yet another project that had just popped up. I believe I was first on the scene to find this one here, that there is a giant beige banner wrapped around the sign that is the entryway to the Fantasyland Theater. By the way, friends, whenever you see this black bar around footage, that means I'm showing you historical footage that I've shot earlier so we can time travel and see how things are adapting. There we see not only the sign, but how they were paving half of that walkway up to Toontown, and then they broke down the construction and moved it over to the other side. So once this side is done, it will be completed up to the bridge. My thought is, does it keep going on the other side up to the theater. I mean, it only makes sense to have a red carpet going to their big premiere. But here we see a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, big beige military style looking banner wrapped around the Fantasyland sign, where you can see in there where the workers are up on those catwalks, up on the scaffolding, doing what they need to do. Probably not a bad time to do refurbishments back here. Maybe this is a good sign that since we saw Disney Junior is back, maybe they're thinking about bringing a stage show. I mean, to me, it feels safer to be here than it does over there in indoors, but we'll see where this goes.
Friends, I don't know about you, but I miss the days of the scrims that had artwork on them. There was nothing better than walking down Main Street or anywhere in Disneyland when you could see the artwork of a building wrapped around said building. I always enjoyed that so much. And now that we're getting into a more khaki scrim stage in Disney's creative endeavors, it's just not the same. It says construction. It definitely doesn't say magic. So yeah, if anybody knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a gal, let's maybe get some of that budget back for the banners that have artwork on them. Even if it has nothing to do with the structure that it's wrapped around, a little bit of magic goes a lot farther than a whole lot of beige or khaki, whatever color you want to call it. It's just about the least exciting color you could imagine.
And speaking of spending money on a little bit of excitement that goes a long way, over in Toontown, the construction walls around the future Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway has had a little bit of artwork added to it. It doesn't take a lot of effort for the magic to go a long way. And this just adds something fun to look at. It adds a little bit of personality. As we travel back, this is what the construction walls look like when the park first reopened. And I don't think anybody here would argue that that's just not as fun. That's just not as Disney than to see some of the icons and characters that we've come to love. These little funny jokes that Toontown is all wrapped around. This just doesn't have that same sort of personality. Also, if we pay attention to the back show building that's being erected, we can see that it's just flat framework. And up there where I just pointed, that's where the buildings were that had been demolished and taken down. So as we step across over by the little play area, we can see the building here is just a giant rectangle and the construction walls have no personality to them. Fast forward to this week, we can see the steel work has been added to the show building that is protruding out, sort of give us an idea of future shapes to come, where I'm assuming that the vignettes of buildings as well as mountains and trees will be attached to that steel work that has been put onto the warehouse, which then will give it that vibe that we're seeing right there, that this is an infinite landscape. There's 3 levels of Disney storytelling that I always talk about. This will create our 3rd and final level, giving us that infinity sweep of where we're standing is a world that goes on forever, and that there's not a giant show building there like the current banner suggests that we should say there's nothing here to see, folks. Keep moving along. Definitely interested to see when this cosmetic facelift actually goes into play and how long it will look like it does, just an exposed show building. But good news, it goes to show that they, of course, always had a plan to cover this big building. And one of my complaints about being out east is there's a lot of big boxes popping up, but not in our park. And speaking of things that have been missing, the sword is missing from the stone, or anvil, I guess if we want to be specific. But I say, instead of complaining about this just being covered with a piece of duct tape, how about we make the best of the situation and say, how can I use this to my advantage? How about taking old school photography when you had to put your arms on that little log and pose for the school photographer? Now you can do that without that pesky sword being in the way. That's right. The stone is all yours to pose away as your little heart needs to. Moving over to Avengers Campus, where I'm kind of at a 50-50 if I see characters in the land, which I feel that it really needs to bring it to life. But we are noticing that as we're getting into a much, much busier park, there were high top tables all along this area. This was sort of a seating area, and that has been removed. Pretty much now in Avengers Campus, the only place you could sit and eat is inside Pim's Kitchen and some of the college like stadium steps that they have where the characters meet and greet. And because I'm a Disneyland psycho, I was always very curious, but what's this little thing that they're building outside of Avengers Campus? What does this wood roof belong to? And now I can officially tell you I have no idea. But I can also officially tell you that they have given up on landscaping this little area that was probably going to be a fast pass distribution or maybe a DVC information kiosk. But yeah, it's sitting here both abandoned in its theme and in its landscaping, and dare I say, looking pretty un-Disney just to see the weeds taking over. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be some sort of apocalypse theme outside of the campus. We've also seen over New Orleans Square that Le Baton Rouge has gotten an update paint job. Here we see it earlier where it was these different colors of red, a red on red with gold leaf trim. And now they have kicked it over to more of like a Granny Smith apple green. I don't know. This reminds me of the color palette of the old school Club 33 door. It's definitely a lot more subdued. Very curious what's going to happen inside of here because it's been saying coming soon since the park has reopened. And here we have more of those beautiful nude walls covering up the construction. I mean, come on. Just a palm tree print, a giant Adventureland logo, an image of the treehouse, a fun pattern. It wouldn't take much to make this look better than a military green covering and that giant nude skin flesh colored canopy. I mean, what is this, an AMC car from the 70s? And there we see the bridge still sticking out of these two structures as they're doing some sort of maintenance to Tarzan's treehouse. Too good to be true that they would turn it back into Swiss Family Robinson. Wrapping up over at Pelican's Landing, let's look back at what existed beyond the walls. As I was doing one of my designer walkthroughs for New Orleans Square, I actually came back here and paid attention to all these little nooks and folds, and you could see that there was a wood dock that would take you right up to the Columbia. The construction is taking place just left to where we're looking at now, this historical footage. That green patch over there, that's what's being removed as they're going to do a more expansive dining area for Pelican Landing. And this is something that I'm very, very excited about. I think one of the pluses of the post-pandemic Disneyland park was all of the seating along the rivers of America, which obviously will have to go away as we get back to Fantasmic, I'm hoping soon. And so therefore, this will give us an area to have more seating on the rivers of America. And as I kind of feel, this places us a little too far down the rivers of America to be able to enjoy the mist screens that gives you that 1-2 punch, which is Fantasmic, where there's always something being built on the island as you're looking at the water. And then when you're looking at the island, they're setting up the next gimmick for the waterways. So I think when we get here, we're a little bit too far down to get a perfect view, maybe a little bit too far on the edge of the horseshoe, which is the outdoor amphitheater every evening that gets turned into Fantasmic. Over on Tom Sawyer's Island, we can see that everything is looking pretty good after this getting repainted a couple of years ago. And now when we look back across the rivers, you can only imagine that if that's perfectly groomed seating and a little area to hang out in, that'll be a pretty good vibe. Going back a couple weeks ago here, I filmed this from the side of the Mark Twain, and you can see that landscaping's fully been removed as the excavating process is taking place to get it all nice and flat so they can go in there and lay down whatever concrete work, curbs, and hopefully put in a few more planters to keep green spaces active along the rivers of America. And do I love hearing that Mark Twain whistle or horn. More of a whistle than a horn. Now as we look back across, we can see this is the area that is under construction, and I think that'll look really good being another chill, quiet spot. Pelican Landing coming soon to the rivers of America. Ma'am, there's a hole in your river was what I thought, and a lot of people thought, like, oh wow, look at that. They can just kind of push the water back and show us some of the moving pieces for Fantasmic. This little area was exposed as they were doing some work, but it has now gone back to disappearing. We know what lives beneath the water as we saw that little box of pumps and different equipment used for Fantasmic just sort of show up so they could do some maintenance and then with a little bit of Disney magic go away. Friends, I hope you have enjoyed this Disneyland update. This is a series that I've been wanting to do for a while, but the channel just wasn't big enough to make it work out. I'm giving it another shot. So please leave a comment below, share it, give it a thumbs up, and let me know, is this a series that you would like to see where I go around the park each and every week, giving you updates on what's happening? And also, while some things are exposed, let's try to break down how the park works. Next week, I got a lot more World of Color operational information that I'd love to share with you that I've been researching on. So friends, until the next time I see you standing on the shores of the rivers of America, I'll see you back here with more Disneyland updates.